Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to replace the transmission fluid in our 1999 Astro van. Now, it has 202,000 miles and I just replaced the engine oil, and the engine oil itself was actually pretty sludgy, and the previous owner had the van for about 40,000 miles, and I can just imagine he didn't do the oil changes as he should have. So I'm just praying I'll get another 50,000 miles out of this engine. I think it will. It's a 4.3 V6. We are going to go ahead and jack up the van. I already jacked it up. There's a cross member up front. You can use that to jack up the van, and then just use jack stands. Make sure you use jack stands and just don't trust the jack. It's very unsafe to do that. So let's go ahead and get underneath the van. All right guys, so here is the transmission oil pan. We're gonna have bolts all around the oil pan itself. All around it. This oil pan does not have a drain plug. So what we are going to do to drain the oil, we are going to loosen up all these bolts, then take out one side and start tipping it. So we're going to tip the oil into the drain pan. It's going to be a little bit messy, so be prepared. We need a wrench, a 13mm socket, and an extension. There are two 13mm bolts holding this into place, so I'm just going to go ahead and move these first just so I can move it out of my way. Now this is free. Now break loose the rest of the bolts. All the bolts are broken loose. Okay, I'm actually going to tip the oil pan from the front right side, tip it down this way, because one, it's just a better camera angle for y'all so you can see this. So I still have these bolts removed just so the cable that you saw is out of the way. So that's out of the way. Now I'm going to remove these bolts here, then slowly screw out these guys until I get more access where all this can tip this way into the catch pan. So let's go ahead and do that. And just in case, I'm gonna put my hand on the pan so it doesn't start leaking without me controlling it. So far I have all these bolts removed. All these bolts are removed on this side, so I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts back here. So now I'm gonna remove this one. Okay, let's see how this goes. Move the catch can where it will catch most to all the fluid. Alright, so the bolts are still a little bit too tight back here, so I'm going to move this bolt here. This transmission fluid has been in here for a long time. And so far, all the bolts except for the 2 bolts attached to that cable are short, so you don't need to keep them organized if you don't want to. All of them so far are about that short except for the 2 that connect this cable in place. Back this one out and back this one out a little bit. Okay. This looks okay so far. Make sure the catch can's in a good spot. Okay, so I still have this bolt connected, the last one on the front. So let's see if I can get enough. There you go. That works. Got some out. All the bolts are removed, and I'm holding all the oil by my hand. So see how this goes. It's not too hard. That is some black transmission fluid. This is the filter. You're just gonna really just pry it out straight down. Oops. So the filter is now out. Now keep in mind this filter does have a gasket that we need to remove. So let's go ahead and remove that gasket. That transmission filter gasket right inside of here, it is basically hammered in, so we need to force it out. So one way to do that is get something we can wedge between the wall and the gasket itself, then pry it open. So let's go ahead and try that. Here is a screw extractor. It's a very small one. Let's see if that's gonna work. Be very careful not to hit the engine components. This guy's working. See that kind of lift coming upwards? Just keep working it. Okay, now grab some pliers. There you go, finally out. Now here's a new one. You can go ahead and lubricate it with some oil. This black part goes in first, just like so. Pushes in with the black part going up first. So you push it in, kind of get it snug. Then you're gonna get a 19, whatever fits perfectly on the outside of this rim, and you're gonna love tap it in, because it is first in this hole. It's going on in. Make sure it goes in straight. That is how it's supposed to be. Nice and snug. Excuse my mess, but as you can see, there are 2 bolts stuck to this magnet. That basically means there's 2 bolts missing from the assembly underneath the transmission. I have already checked and I know where they're missing, so I'm gonna tackle that in a quick second. But first, we need to go ahead and move this gasket. Pretty caked on here because it has probably never been serviced. Yeah, that sucks. So in this case, I'm gonna use a razor blade. You don't want to use a razor blade on this because it can gouge metal, but this is not coming off easy at all. So in that case, I'm just gonna skim it underneath it as carefully as I can. Be careful, ladies and gents, because I was dumb enough to not think. That's gross. So we just cleaned that with some acetone. Now, you want to make sure you clean the acetone all off before we assemble it on the car. So go ahead and give it a good cleaning with, you can do soapy water, whatever you like. Then we need to remove the gasket material off the transmission itself. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's one of the missing bolts, and they're actually missing on this plate here, right there, and right there. So I'm just going to screw them back in. Since they are 8mm bolts, I'm sure it is only like 12 foot-pounds torque to tighten them correctly, and that is translation to just pretty snug. That's about 10 pounds of torque. Snug them up. That's good. Now let's go ahead and grab the new transmission oil filter. Place it right into the hole where it was. This is also a pretty snug fit, so there you go. That is in. Now let's go ahead and clean up the gasket material on here, and I'm going to use a builder pad real quick. So if you're doing it at home, clean up the gasket, then attach this. The main gasket material that's left is this right here. So I'm going to try my best to remove that. We now have the oil pan, a fresh gasket, a new gasket. Make sure you put it on correctly. I mean, the gasket can only go on one way, but make sure you put it on correctly. Now, remember the shallow end? The shallow end goes to the back of the car, and the deeper end goes to the front of the car. So with that said, I'm gonna really cramp down here. You're gonna bear with me, and I'm going to finagle it into its position, attaching one bolt here, one bolt down here, and just try my best to get on with the gasket straight. Make sure that the gas is going on correctly and it's not binding anywhere. So now since you have the bolts all in, get them all finger tight, okay? All finger tight. All the bolts are snug. Now, what we need to do is tighten them in a crisscross manner, which means I'm going to tighten this bolt first, then go directly across and tighten the exact opposite on the other side. Now, the torque specifications is about 15 foot-pound torque. Most torque wrenches don't go that low. So basically what that means is a nice snug fit. Sorry about the very harsh light there. Okay, so the next step is to add transmission fluid. Now, I've seen anywhere from 11 quarts all the way down to 4 quarts. What seems to be the general consensus is 5 quarts. However, I'm just gonna do 4 quarts to start with, then I will check the fluid, then add another quart. I have 5 total quarts with me. We need a long end funnel that can fit into the transmission fluid dipstick tube. So it'll be in a locked position. I'm gonna pick up this tab, just a flick, bring it out, put it in a safe spot that it won't get bent. Now let's get the funnel and place it right into that tube. I'm gonna leave the towel just right there, just in case I make a mess. This is the recommended transmission fluid for the Astro van. And I'll have all the products in the description down below that I use today. I'm actually gonna hold it at an angle the entire time, making sure that it goes in. That's exactly why I have that towel right there, because I missed. So I'm gonna pour this entire gallon. Now let it settle for a minute and let's get the dipstick and check the fluid. And when you're checking the fluid, you want to make sure that you're checking it on a level surface. Alright, so it looks good. It keeps sliding down the dipstick whenever I lift it up. So first do the 4 quarts, then make sure it's at that cold line because it's cold. Alright, so there you have it guys. That's basically how you change out the transmission fluid on the Astro van, which is going to be the same transmission in the GMC Safari, and that is the 4L60E transmission. It should all be the same process. Whenever I start doing projects, I always kind of reference other videos. There aren't many videos on doing this on the Astro van, and the ones that are out there are very kind of spotty, so I hope that this kind of filled in those spotty gaps. And just to let y'all know, I am going to build this van to be a stealth camper van. It's going to be kind of exciting. It's going to be very DIY, budget friendly, or as budget friendly as I can make it, because I'm on a budget. I know that many of y'all are probably on a budget as well, so we're going to try to make do with what we got and try to make the best of what we got. This is Chris AutoMotivate. Always appreciate and respect one another. I hope this video helped you out, and I'll see you next time.